Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's operator meeting. My name is Hannah Hickham, and I'll be your host for today. I believe it's time to get started. So, Chris, you can take it away.
Hey, Hannah, thanks. Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a nice long weekend. Hannah, if you can share slides, that would be great. Or do you want me to? I can as well.
I can do it. They just download them because they look weird if I do it on Google. All right, I don't really know how to share it or make it like a slideshow.
This is great. So today's operating meeting, at least as far as what we have to share with you, will be short, hopefully brief. The first thing I just wanted to remind people of some important dates. Of course, the Form 1B was due August 1st, and as of today, we're going to start following up with operators that we haven't had any communication with regarding filing them. If you have any questions, please reach out to Jeremy Farron or myself. Email addresses are shown there. We are working through a lot of communications about the 1B, so be patient with us as we get back to you. If you're someone who's having an issue in logging into eForms, your credentials, your username and password, you can contact Ken Robertson or myself, and I'll try to get you set up with that. I know there's some people who have been having issues just connecting. As also as a reminder, the conservation levy, the second quarter of 2022 payment was due on September 1st. So please see about getting those in. And then finally, for the Form 3, which is upcoming here very soon, again, we just want to remind people to complete the Form 1C, 3B, and 6A if necessary. Some of these forms won't be applicable to you, but if they are, please try to fill those out as soon as you can before you start working on the Form 3. And then finally, the mitigation fee and levy payments. I'll just remind people, I think most everyone's aware, but we have an electronic payment system that only allows for electronic checks. So that's the only way you can make payment for these particular fees. Okay, next slide, Hannah, please. So the big announcement today, this was put out on September 1st last week. We have delayed the deadline for the Form 3 financial assurance plan for submitting it. As we realize it, as rolling out the form this week and then having the deadline be September 15th, that wasn't the most realistic for operators to have time to compile and process the form. We've extended that. And there's two groups that have been affected by this. The first group is those with 50 or more wells. So that was originally the July 1st deadline, and now it has been extended to October 10th. But we also extended the deadline for operators with greater than 10 but fewer than 50 wells. That was initially October 1st, and that's being extended to November 1st. Finally, for those operators with 10 or fewer wells, there's been no change, and the deadline will still be December 31st. You can read the revised NTO on our website. There's a link on the homepage and an announcement, and it will also be in a link in this presentation, which will be made available very soon. Next slide, Hannah. So the only other thing I wanted to mention, this was brought up last week about we providing some more information for the Form 3 under our company detail pages. So you would click on data, COGCC database, and then the operator name, address, and financial assurance. Next slide. And there was one button I discussed last week, previous 12 months production data, which is there. And if you click on that, next slide, it's going to provide you a calculation of your previous 12 months as designated specifically for the Form 3. It will show the total production, the aggregate GOR, the determination used for the financial plan, option determination, and then there'll be a average daily per well production in both BOE and MCFE, and then an option that you qualify for based upon that determination. You also will be able to download the monthly production. Next slide. And then what's also being added new is a information about non-well facilities and surface bonds. And so there you'll see a button underneath the previous 12 months that says Form 3 Financial Assurance Reports. And next slide, Hannah, please. And this page is an inventory of all the existing non-well financial assurance. So things for non-well facilities with bonds, blanket bonds for surface, and then if you have seismic or project bonds, they will all be listed here. Again, this information is going to be used on the Form 3. So this will be just a way for you to look at it outside of the Form 3. These tools, I know I said last week that they would be available to everyone that day. Well, we're a week later, and they will be available today, I promise. So by the end of today, you should have access to these on the website in that place I just showed you. So that was all I had, Hannah. And at this point, if anyone has any questions, we'll try to answer them.
Great, Chris, thanks. Folks can just drop their questions in the chat and I'll read them out loud. Okay, looks like we have a few. First question is, when will the 5B be available?
So for the 5B, my expectation is it would be within the next 2, maybe 3 weeks. We're trying to finish getting out the Form 3. That's our top priority. And as soon as that's done, I believe we'll work on the Form 5B when Jane Stanzik, she's out this week. When she's back, we'll check with her, but that's, I believe, our priority is to work on the 5B next. So 2 weeks or so, it should be available.
Great, thanks, Chris. The next question is, are the current CD blanket bonds for wells that we have with the state put towards our new financial assurance amount due?
So my understanding is that yes, current financial assurance, the CD blanket bonds will be applicable, but you still would have to meet the new threshold. So there will be a consideration of that in the context of the new amounts due. I think we're still working out that accounting of it, but as far as I understand that they will account towards the new financial assurance amount.
Great, thanks, Chris. Next question is, can you provide any additional guidance on what is expected in an asset retirement plan?
So I believe that we might already have some information that Jane had gone over with that, and I'd have to go back and look and see in our previous presentations from before, but I think there was something that spoke to the asset retirement plan and the expectation for what's in it. So if you go back to our industry operations meetings archive, in one of those, Hannah, I believe there was something, but I'd have to go back and see. If not, we will look at getting some guidance on that. I know we've talked about it.
Do you know what that would have been called? Like, was it a one?
I mean, to some extent, it's pretty difficult for us to provide guidance, general guidance for, I mean, beyond the obvious of, you know, talk about what your asset retirement plan is as an organization, as a company, as operator. You know, I don't know how we would provide guidance that would, you know, that would address the issues without just being more verbose, perhaps in the request. I guess if there's guidance, if there's specific questions that operators think that might be helpful for us to have an answer to, I'd love maybe getting those specific questions, and we could figure out if that maybe would prompt us to understand what we could do to make that clearer. But you know, in the asset retirement plan, I can't remember exactly when it's triggered, under what options. But you know, the commission was just looking to see, you know, what your plan is in terms of asset retirement. And I think, Chris, the things that we talked about was whether or not that was one of the documents that could be labeled as confidential. Maybe that's the context that you're remembering us talking about it in. I can't remember now either, but certainly if you give us specific questions that you feel like we could provide guidance on, we would certainly look at those questions and see if that prompted us to think of more succinct or more specific guidance to provide. But you know, my reading of the rule is it's a fairly generic expectation.
Exactly.
All right, thank you. The next question is, do you have examples of certification of financial capability?
I think at this point we do not. From my understanding, this will be somewhat up to an operator to provide us that that on a company letterhead that describes with the necessary signatures, but I don't believe we have any examples at this point. And Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if there's if you're aware there's specific.
I haven't seen one, and here again, this is one of the documents we talked about, that our expectation is this certification is a public-facing document signed by an officer, you know, an authorized officer of the company, that simply attests and asserts as to the company's financial stability, capability. I don't know that there's a lot of detail in it because it is a public-facing document. I appreciate that there may be confidential documents that may be provided in support of this. Here again, we talked about it last week in the document management. But this particular document, you know, is simply, it's a pretty straightforward assertion of financial capability on a company letterhead signed by an authorized individual for that company. That's really all it is. Or at least that's my expectation of what.
Thanks, Scott. I don't have any other questions right now.
Well, happy September, everybody. Thank you, Chris and Hannah.
And we'll have our regular operator meeting with topics maybe not just restricted to financial assurance next week.
Yeah,
right.
At the same time, and I'll send something out on Thursday or Friday about that.
And we will also make an announcement both on our website, and I think Hannah's going to send out an email blast. When we do have the Form 3 available for all operators to use, we will let everybody know as soon as that's out there. So look for that, hopefully by the end of this week.
Great, thanks, Chris. And if anyone needs to be added to the email list, just email me. I'll get you on that list. Otherwise, everyone have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Scott.